Imagine it's the dead of winter and you suddenly find yourself without a home. Sounds unimaginable, right? Unfortunately, this is the harsh reality for thousands of families across Britain. In the beautiful coastal region of Cornwall, known for its idyllic beaches and charming villages, there lies a tale of two worlds. As the G7 summit put the spotlight on this picturesque locale, the world witnessed a surge in tourism. A silver lining, one might think, but this influx brought with it a set of unforeseen complications. The burgeoning popularity of Cornwall as a holiday destination resulted in a drastic surge in property prices. This increase in demand for housing led to a crippling shortage of affordable options for the local residents. Families that have spent generations in the town found themselves unable to afford the escalating rents and house prices. But the gravity of this situation extends beyond the boundaries of Cornwall. This housing crisis is not an isolated incident, nor is it a temporary glitch. It is a stark reflection of a nationwide issue that's been simmering beneath the surface for a while now. From small towns to big cities, the housing crisis is making its presence felt across Britain. And it's not just about the rising property prices or the lack of affordable housing. It's about the profound impact this crisis is having on the sense of community. Towns and cities are no longer just places to live. They're becoming commodities, tourist attractions, pushing out the very people who give these places their unique character and soul. As we delve deeper into this issue, let's not forget the human cost. The families who find themselves locked out of the housing market, the children who are growing up in temporary accommodations, the elderly who are spending their golden years in insecurity and fear. This is no longer an isolated issue. The housing crisis is becoming a nationwide problem affecting countless families. Let's put our heads together to find a solution, because every family deserves a place to call home. Scene script. Numbers often speak louder than words, so let's delve into the facts and figures that underline the severity of this crisis. As we find ourselves in the closing months of 2023, it's clear that the housing crash is not a distant threat, but a very present reality. The repercussions of this crisis are far-reaching and devastatingly tangible. In the past 5 years alone, property prices have seen an exponential rise. In Cornwall, the host of the G7 summit, this surge in property prices has been especially steep. The influx of tourists and the popularity of the region as a holiday destination have led to an inflation that has outpaced wage growth by a staggering margin. This has inevitably led to a shortage of affordable housing for the local community. But the impact doesn't stop at affordability. The housing crisis has also led to a significant increase in homelessness. Thousands of British families find themselves on the brink of losing their homes as we head into the winter months. This is not a localized issue, it's a nationwide crisis that is escalating at an alarming rate. To put things into perspective, the number of people affected by this housing crash is greater than the population of many cities. This is not a temporary glitch, but a systemic issue that needs immediate attention. And it's not just about those who are currently homeless. The housing crash has a ripple effect, impacting those who are at risk of losing their homes, those who are forced to spend the majority of their income on rent, and those who are pushed into substandard housing. The crisis has also resulted in a community divide. In areas like Cornwall, some residents feel that their town has lost its sense of community and has become more like a tourist attraction rather than a place where people live and work. These numbers are not just statistics, they represent real people with real lives that are being drastically affected. The housing crisis doesn't just affect homeowners, it's also creating a surge in homelessness across the country. When we talk about the housing crash, we often focus on the financial implications, but let's not forget about the human side of this issue. The lack of affordable housing is one of the main drivers of homelessness. When people can't afford a roof over their heads, they have no other option than to sleep rough in shelters or in temporary accommodation. In regions like Cornwall, for instance, the influx of tourists and the popularity of holiday lets have driven property prices through the roof. This means locals can't afford to live in their own towns. It's a classic case of supply and demand imbalance, and the locals are the ones who suffer. But it's not just about affordability, it's also about availability. With property owners opting to rent out their homes as holiday lets, there's a shortage of long-term rental options. This further exacerbates the homelessness issue, pushing more individuals and families onto the streets. And let's not forget about the timing. As we move into the winter months, the situation becomes even more dire. The cold, wet weather makes living on the streets unbearable and dangerous. Yet, with the housing crash limiting options, many are left with no other choice. It's clear that the housing crash isn't just about economics, it's about people. It's about families who are forced to live in cars or on the streets. It's about children who have to sleep in shelters instead of their own beds. It's about elderly people who are left out in the cold with nowhere to go. The housing crisis is more than just a string of numbers on a balance sheet. It's a real, tangible issue that affects real people every day. And as the crisis deepens, the number of people affected continues to rise. So when we talk about the housing crash, let's remember the human cost. Let's remember the people who are struggling to find a place to call home. And let's remember that the housing crash isn't just an economic issue, it's a humanitarian crisis. The situation might seem bleak, but there are solutions out there. Let's take a look at some of them. One such solution is a radical new economic theory called donut economics, a concept that's already being embraced by cities like Amsterdam. This approach, developed by economist Kate Raworth, centers around creating balance between the social foundation and the environmental ceiling. In simpler terms, it's about ensuring a good quality of life for all, while respecting the limits of our planet. In the context of a housing crisis, donut economics might mean prioritizing affordable, sustainable housing over luxury developments. It could mean implementing policies that prevent property prices from spiraling out of control and ensuring that everyone has access to a home, regardless of their income. This approach isn't just about economics, it's also about community. In a donut economy, the focus is on the well-being of all residents, not just the wealthy few. It's about remembering that a city is more than just a tourist attraction or a property market. It's a place where people live, work, and raise their families. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds great, but can it really work? Well, the city of Amsterdam certainly seems to think so. They're working with Raworth's organization, the Donut Economics Action Lab, to put these ideas into practice. And they're not alone. Other cities, including Copenhagen and Portland, are also exploring the donut model. Of course, donut economics isn't a magic bullet. Critics argue that it might not address the underlying political structures that contribute to issues like housing crises, and it's true, no single solution can fix everything. But what donut economics offers is a new way of thinking, a fresh perspective on what a city could be. While these solutions may not be perfect, they represent a step in the right direction. It's easy to feel helpless in the face of such a massive issue, but there are ways you can help. In the midst of the housing crisis, there are numerous charities tirelessly working to provide support and shelter to families left homeless. These organizations are the lifeline for many, but they rely heavily on the generosity of people like you. One such charity is Shelter, a non-profit organization that offers advice, support, and legal services to people struggling with bad housing or homelessness. They also campaign to tackle the root causes of the housing crisis. Your donation could help fund these vital services and bring us one step closer to a world where everyone has a safe place to call home. Crisis is another charity that works year-round to end homelessness. They provide food, warmth, and access to crucial services for people who are homeless. Moreover, they offer education, training, and support with housing, employment, and health. A donation to Crisis could provide someone with a hot meal, a warm bed for the night, or the tools they need to rebuild their life. Then there's Centrepoint, a charity that provides housing and support for young people aged 16 to 25. They aim to give homeless young people a future, and they believe in their potential to turn their lives around. Your contribution could help a young person escape the cycle of homelessness and move towards a brighter future. The Trussell Trust operates a network of over 1,200 food banks across the United Kingdom, providing emergency food and support to people locked in poverty. As the housing crisis deepens, more and more families are turning to food banks to survive. Your donation could help keep these food banks stocked and ready to help those in need. Donations can take many forms. It doesn't always have to be money. You could donate food, clothing, or even your time by volunteering. Every small act can make a huge difference. Remember, the housing crisis is a complex issue, and while these charities are doing incredible work, they cannot solve it alone. They need our support. They need your support. Together, we can make a difference. Your support could mean the world to a family in need this winter.